Welcome, everyone, to RB1 Fantasy Football Podcast, part of the Fake Teams Podcast channel. I am the consummate professional, first ranking officer of the Terry McLaurin Stand Club, diamond mounter at the Jerry Judy Jewelry Company, and BFS with the Oracle, your humble host, Pete Rogers. And I am joined for the first time in a long time by all of the guys. We have the Duck Father, DK Metcalf's number one admirer, founder and lone proprietor of the Gus the Bus 4 Seasons busing service, and caster of the double reverse chutzpah, resident old man Clark Barnes, Scotty Miller fanboy, mule skinner of the Zachards Decline Wagon, head excavator of the Robert Tanyan Canyon, proud father Quentin Nelson, the tight end whisperer Jordan Smith, and finally, loather of Adam Gase, doubter of John Gruden's Jacob Handel shtick, lifeguard and training at your neighborhood Chase Claypool, and thinks your favorite team is run by donkeys, the ginger well-manicured man, Nick Bodiford. Guys, how we doing today?
Doing great, Pete.
Very well, Pete. How are you?
I am good. Nick, did you enjoy your vacation that you took in the middle of the NFL season and kind of left all of us up to dry for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Just kind of had to pick up your slack in the midst, like really kind of in like the key part of the NFL season. You just decided, you know what, I'm going to just drive around the country just for shits and giggles.
Yeah, it was great. I appreciate you guys covering for me. I got to reach out to, I think it was Mark, who was covering my running back rankings. That was really nice of him. I certainly missed you guys. And to all the listeners, I was as safe as possible, did a 2-week quarantine for traveling, drove everywhere, still managed to put myself in a very dangerous situation with a gas station attendant who would not wear a mask and ended up vomiting in the bathroom next to me, at which point I ran out. First COVID test is negative. We'll let you guys know what the 5-day mark one reveals. But anyway, everybody mask up. Also, congratulations to the new grooms, Justin and David. We were out in Colorado, celebrate the wedding of my girlfriend's brother. And anyway, let's get back to football.
No. We're not just glazing over the fact that you were at a gas station attendant was just vomiting next to you at the bathroom.
Dude, it was it was really scary because I went in and the man behind the counter was looking at me and he had his mask as though it was a beard, like hanging on here. And I was like, God damn it. I've been in the car for hours. And so I ran in the bathroom and I heard this. No, I thought it was a dog. And was like, oh, this is the most violent vomiting I've ever heard. I guess he went in right behind me. Anyway, it could be a lot of things. I've talked to like my medical professional friends and they're like, look, could be withdrawals, could be XYZ. So anyway, in a quarantine again now, just to make sure that I was not standing next to this man's COVID cloud. Not cool. Just
wow. That is
take care of yourselves. Yeah, it was really nerve-wracking.
Wow. Well, you're here, Nick, and that's all that matters. Who
That's
cares
right.
about your girlfriend's brother's wedding? You're here now.
That's right. Sure.
This podcast is what matters. You're healthy for this show. All right, let's get into some Week 10 starts and sits. As always, we are going to run through every game on the schedule and talk about some of our favorite plays, some of our favorite not plays. And we will start Thursday Night Football. This could actually be a really good game. We have the Indianapolis Colts heading to Tennessee to take on the Titans in a battle of AFC South supremacy. And for me personally, I'm getting good Michael Pittman vibes this game. I feel like going up against a Titans secondary that has been picked upon, much maligned, and is giving up points to wide receivers, second most points to wide receivers this season. He saw 7 targets last week, and that was without T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton is practicing and likely will be playing on Thursday night. But I feel like T.Y. Hilton in the game hurts Zach Pascal more than it would hurt Michael Pittman, who's a bigger body down the field guy who they're looking to get the ball to clearly now that he is healthy and in this offense. So I have a slight inclination that this could be Michael Pittman worthy of, kind of a wide receiver 3 start and might get you, 5 catches, 50 some odd yards in a TD.
I think it's a wonderfully bold call. Going after anybody in the Colts passing attack is going to scare a lot of folks away. Just because Phillip Rivers and that arm is, it's basically hanging off. But as you said, the Colts very, very generous to opposing wideouts. Titans.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a whoever's getting the targets in Indianapolis, which is tough to tell. They seem to be like a it goes everywhere. It's like what happened to Mo Alley Cox, like what happened to all the targets going to TY and that sort of thing. So it's goofy for me, but it's good to see that he's getting at least 7 targets.
Clark, go ahead, Nick.
Does this game give you guys any fear over Derek Henry? Because I think the Colts are allowing the fewest half-point PPR points to opposing backfields, or is his like 20 touch volume just bulletproof still?
I don't see how you could have a fantasy football team where you have 3 other better options than Derek Henry. I think that it will be like a low point for what is perhaps the last like bell cow back in the NFL. But no, I don't know how you get away from him in this game.
Yeah, I second that notion from Clark. I don't think he's a DFS play. Certainly, it's not a matchup that he's just going to crush. But I do think that unless somehow you're like in a 5-person league and behind Derrick Henry you have Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, and Nick Chubb coming back from IR, then you're like, yeah, fire those guys up instead.
I mean, I think the question here is, do you start Jordan Wilkins? Do you have the chutzpah to play him against the weak Titans defense?
Yeah, this Colts backfield is perplexing to me. And we talked about it on Tuesday's podcast about how we still have faith in Jonathan Taylor, but it is something where it does seem like Jonathan Taylor is having to work himself out of a hole that he dug by having kind of a slow start to his career season. And Jordan Wilkins hasn't been bad. And you're right, Clark. It's a favorable matchup. So this is one where I think if you can avoid this backfield, you should, and you should be able to, because you should have backs that are probably comparable to Jordan Wilkins on your roster. If you need to start him, but I would try to stay away from this backfield just because, I mean, who knows where the touches are going.
I did rank Taylor higher, but Wilkins is the snap share king over the last 2 weeks. It evened out a lot last week with him and Hines in the lead, but I don't think that he's necessarily a bad flex play just because of how insanely weak the Titans defense is overall.
I think the Titans defense is weak and they're not playing well, but this might be the game where they actually look good. So that's what I'm worried about with Indianapolis.
Good thing we offered a lot of certainty there for you guys, dear listeners. Let's move on to the Sunday games. We're starting with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off of a thorough shellacking from the New Orleans Saints, and they head to Carolina to take on the Panthers. I don't know, Clark, what are you feeling? Do you have any plays for this game that might stand out? Because for me personally, the Panthers are a team that has just let people run on them. Their run defense is terrible, but which running back is going to be the one who gets the bulk of the work for Tampa?
Unfortunately, you can make a case for either one. Expect this to be a good competitive divisional matchup. We'll have to watch closely. I think Christian McCaffrey is out for this week, so if you held on to Mike Davis, fire him up again. I feel like Leonard Fournette is a slightly better running back than Ronald Jones, and I will not die on that hill and don't care enough to argue the other way. So if you're desperate, I think there's enough value to plug one in. Fournette seems to be the runner, so looking for those pass interference in the end zone calls, Fournette is your man. But that's just the slightest of edges. Ronald Jones has looked better as a runner and is, I don't know, completely frustrating. I don't know. I will guess in most leagues where I don't have a better option.
We've touched on the Bucs defensive weaknesses throughout this year. I guess I'm abruptly flipping the script here, but this is something I'm excited to talk about. Mike Davis has obviously had a really strong pass catching role in his time filling in for McCaffrey, and yeah, he is, by all accounts, he's going to miss this week. I think the study cited by Edwin Porras was that this suspected injury players miss an average of 9.8 days. So figure that out for all you guys, all you McCaffrey owners. But the Bucs defense is surrendering the third highest total of receptions to opposing backfield, 6.6. So assuming that any of our listeners are in any form of modern NFL or fantasy football scoring league where you're getting some sort of points per reception, that's going to be a big deal. Expect that Davis to just get peppered.
For the Panthers offense, I am officially completely staying away from DJ Moore. Curtis Samuel has surpassed DJ Moore in this offense. He is the wide receiver 2 there. I think you still start Robbie Anderson. I have him ranked as a wide receiver 2 this week. Curtis Samuel, I think I have as a wide receiver 3, and DJ Moore, I have barely as a top as a wide receiver 4. I have him like at 40 something ish in the 40s. So if you can get away from DJ Moore, you definitely should. He should be sitting on your bench until he shows that he's going to now see the target share that was going to him, but now is going to Curtis Samuel. And Curtis Samuel also gets he touches on the ground, which is super nice for PPR.
Yeah, Samuel seems to have really busted out after they cut Seth Roberts. And once they cut out one of the mounts to feed, then Samuel just vaulted into this high value position. I got mopped up by him last week, so I'm a little raw towards him. As far as Moore, yeah, I don't think this is the matchup to trust him.
Delightful. Let's move on. Houston Texans head to Cleveland to take on the Browns, and Nick Chubb is returning this game. He is off IR. He is practicing, and it might be a little counterintuitive, but that is great news for Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, I think now becomes much more efficient with his touches, and he's not going to see the 20-plus carries that he was getting with Chubb injured. But what we're going to get is that that Kareem Hunt role again, where he is their primary pass catcher. He is going to excel in that role, and Houston's giving up the third most points to running backs. So I am certainly firing up. Well, you obviously fire up Chubb, even though he's coming back from IR, and I'm firing up Kareem Hunt with similar confidence.
Yeah, just about everybody's a go in this one. The Texans defense is terrible, and the Browns defense is not that great either. Deshaun Watson is playing really well, kind of lifting everyone around him. Unfortunately, frustratingly, lifting everyone kind of equally. We saw with Jordan Akins coming back that Darren Fells being a thing went away, and they kind of cannibalized each other. Saw Duke Johnson get a lot of run, but not look especially great. I think Duke Johnson might be starting again this week. So if you're thinking about it, I think you're definitely starting everyone in this game. I don't see how Jarvis Landry doesn't get like 12 catches for 140 yards and a touchdown. Rashard Higgins, I think, is a go in this game. And Cook and Fuller are looking pretty decent. So this is two not very good teams who can move the ball playing each other. You want every piece of this you can get.
Did we get Baker off the COVID list?
That's what I was just about to ask. Is he's still on it? I think.
I'm kind of because if that's the case,
on.
It's Case Keenum.
He's still on, but he has plenty of time to get cleared.
Yeah. Either way, it's like
something to monitor.
It's Jarvis Landry, who's like just a possession guy, catching stuff, and the Kareem Hunt Nick Chubb thing. I believe Nick Chubb, they're going to like take it easy. Is the report, and that even if he's like 100% go, they're still going to have him be 50-50 in this game, like 50-50 timeshare with Kareem Hunt. So.
Yeah, fortunately for us and unfortunately for Clark, the Texans are allowing the most rushing yards per game to opposing backfields. That is 144.9 yards. So it's a really nice spot for Nick Chubb to come back to. And if what Jordan's saying is correct and he just gets 50% of the touches, that's the efficiency should be there for him to, find the end zone or at least give us a real good yardage total. Pete,
even with like 12 touches, Nick Chubb's going to do enough to be a viable fantasy starter this week, even with the reduced role.
And mea culpa on Brandon Cooks. Pete, you nailed that at the beginning of the season. I was a doubter. He's been great.
I just needed Bill O'Brien to get fired in this offense to actually like utilize Brandon Cooks.
That's right. And Clark, I like the Higgins call. I think that he's a nice kind of good matchup, deep threat flex play this week.
All right. Continuing on, we have the Washington football team heading to Detroit to take on the Lions. And this is a prime time matchup, Nick. There's someone who I know you've been honking the horn for weeks now. Probably can still get him on the waiver wire. J.D. McKissic is a get and a start, baby.
Yeah, it's fairly unfortunate because I think everyone on this podcast is extremely high on Antonio Gibson. But the backfield, the Washington backfield as a whole is an excellent start. So the Detroit Lions, their front seven is allowing the most half-point PPR points per game to opposing backfields at 32.2 points per game. J.D. McKissic, astonishingly, he led the team in targets last week with 14. That's compliments of captain checkdown Alex Smith. He's number 4 in the NFL right now in targets for at the running back position. Just a final thing of notes. I believe, and I have to double check this on the fly here. Yeah, so the Lions, they're kind of middle of the road in statistics allowed to the pass catching backs. 4.6 receptions per game, 51.6 yards, and half a touchdown or 0.6 touchdowns. So anyway, the point is McKissic, especially like we were saying, if you guys have any sort of points per reception award, McKissic's just going to rack up the numbers that way. I also like this as a great Antonio Gibson, like back end RB1, high end RB2 matchup, just because of the flaccidity of the Lions front seven.
I'll add to just continue to monitor Kenny Golladay throughout the week. He didn't practice today. He's dealing with a hip injury, which is a little bit questionable, but if he goes, then I think he actually goes, because in the games he has played this year, he's put up like 17, 16, 14, 17 points. So if he's good to go, then he's good to go. But if he doesn't practice by like Friday, then I would look for a different option. Probably not on Detroit unless it's Marvin Jones or TJ Hawkinson.
And I would be even hesitant on Marvin Jones. Without Kenny Golladay the last 2 games, he's had 3 catches and 39 and 43 yards. And he got a touchdown last week, which has saved his time. But he's like, basically you're starting him as a touchdown dependent guy because he's not getting a high target share. That's all going to Danny Amendola, I guess. And this Washington secondary is still legit. They are still allowing the fewest points to wide receivers this season. So I would say if Kenny Golladay, you're going to start your guys, your stars, but if he's out, then I wouldn't really be wanting to start anyone. But TJ Hawkinson's not a bad one because he has been balling out without Golladay.
So
Stafford
as a
fully practice too.
Yeah.
So as a free waiver wire pickup, I looked today on Yahoo after waivers run in most Yahoo leagues. Still 0% owned. Cam Sims, the dreadlocked gazelle out of Alabama, who got 3 targets for over 100 and some odd yards after Alex Smith came in and Washington did everything they possibly could to lose the game. So he seems kind of like the other option that Alex Smith is going to lean on outside of Terry McLaurin. So if you're desperate this week, you have like Julio or Tyreek Hill out and you need a boom bust play and you forgot to put in your waivers, check out Cam Sims.
I like that. Nice deep cut from Clerk Burns. All right, let's go to the Jacksonville Jaguars heading to Green Bay to take on the Packers. And I'm just laughing because my mind is just like imagining the stat line that Devontae Adams is going to put up this week because Jordan, is he going to top what he's already been putting out there? He has to.
Well, if we're looking at DVOA ranks, Jacksonville is dead last. So that's not great for them. Devontae Adams is pretty much matchup proof at this point anyhow. This might be another game that not another game, but it might be a game where Robert Tonyan finally gets back to the saving grace that he was earlier in the season. He's still the number 1 ranked tight end by DVOA, so playing really efficiently, just not in the fantasy arena. Allen Lazard might be back, so that's good for the passing game as well. You might be wanting to fire him up with this matchup because this is like, it's a really great matchup for him to come back from injury and really, really ease yourself back into live action. Aaron Jones, of course. On the other side, James Robinson, I'm starting. The Packers still aren't good against the run. But the thing is with game script, if the Packers are, if Jacksonville accepts who they are, like if they're down and they finally accept it, like last week, they were still fighting. Like Jacksonville should probably be settling into a top 5 draft pick position instead of trying to lose games. Win. Yeah, instead of trying to win football games. But they were still running James Robinson a little bit. Not as much as in the first half, though. He was getting some pretty good chunks of yards in the first half, but I'm still firing him up.
Yeah, I like the Tonyan call. Jags are giving up 3rd most half-point PPR points to tight ends, and really, after you get outside of the like top 8 of points allowed to tight ends, it's just crapshoot. But anyway, top 3, that's reliable. As far as James Robinson goes, he's the 11th most targeted running back in the NFL. He had a dip last week, and we need to monitor that, try to figure out what the deal is there. But the Pack's allowing 1.4 rushing touchdowns to running backs per game, most in the NFL, and they're pretty bad.
Did you say 1.4?
touchdowns per game. Yeah,
They're allowing like 1.5 scores. Damn. Okay.
to running backs. Yeah, rushing scores. And then
No,
they're also
bad.
like top 5 or so in receiving production allowed to opposing backfield. So yeah, I'm very, very high on Robinson this week. The one time, it might take him a while to get down to the red zone, but if they do, like, he's their guy. They're just gonna ram him in there.
The rushing touchdown number is pretty inflated thanks to Dalvin Cook's awesome game against them. But I am curious why they kind of.
Jordan. Keep telling yourself that.
I am telling myself that. It's true though. He scored like half of the rushing touchdowns that have been scored against the Packers by himself. Is it like the Jake Luton thing? Is it like their quarterback cycle that James Robinson is suddenly not getting into the passing game, because he was pretty elite, like all around type of running back earlier. Now it just seems like he's getting these 25 carries for 99-yard type of games, which is fine. I'll take it, but I want some PPR points.
Yeah, and Jake in the only start last week with Jake Luton under center, you're right. I mean, James Robinson, all the games before were basically he was seeing over 4 targets, and then last week he only saw 2, and none of them were completed. So that is something to note. I also think that this, even though he's coming off of a big bounce back game that we told you he was going to, DJ Chark was obviously going to have a great game against the Texans. Jordan, I'll give your pack some credit. Jair Alexander is balling out, and he's going to be more likely than not shadowing DJ Chark all over the field. So I would be hesitant. The Packers have given up the 6th fewest points to wide receivers because people can just run on them. So I would be hesitant to fire up DJ Chark with supreme confidence that he's going to return you even wide receiver 2 numbers. I think I might have him barely in the wide receiver 2 category this week, but maybe just outside. Going to cut in right now for a quick ad break. Let us continue on then to the Philadelphia Eagles heading to New York to take on the New York Giants. And people, he has blessed you so far recently, and I'm telling you to keep the faith. Keep the faith in Evan Ingram. He has seen 9+ targets in the last 3 games. The Eagles are allowing the 4th most points to tight ends so far this year, and that falls right in Nick's got to be top 5 or else it doesn't matter in terms of points to a tight end. So the Eagles are definitely a matchup that they can take advantage of. It seems like they're trying to put more emphasis on Evan Ingram in this offense, really getting him the ball. And he is a little finicky with his catching and his drops, but things seem to be clicking a little bit better. So I have been very nicely relying on him the last few weeks, and I will be continuing to do so this week.
I've all the power to Evan Ingram has the fourth most shallow average target air yards. This guy, I think someday we'll see him freed of terrible coaching, but until then, it is so rough.
It is rough, but I can't argue with results, baby. They're mild, but I'll take them.
Alfred Morris looking good last week. Alfred Morris, everybody.
Morris. Is Miles Sanders back?
I believe so.
He's
right?
returned to practice. Yeah,
I believe this begins
on
Miles Sanders' fantasy league winning run as an RB1 this week.
Good. That's what I like to hear, Clark. Thank you kindly. That is what me and my fantasy rosters want to hear. I also think this is a low-key Jalen Reagor breakout game. We saw him in his first game back from injury. They targeted him 6 times, and the Giants secondary has been good. But I also just kind of think that the game-breaking speed that Reagor has could be a little bit more than they can handle. So I would recommend adding him off waivers before he becomes a hot waiver target for Week 10. Add him and start him.
Travis Fulgham is real. In case you're
Travis Fulgham
is real.
You got a big old matchup against James Bradbury, the battle of 2 titans in the NFC East. All right, let's continue on. The Cincinnati Bengals head to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers in this game. Also something to monitor, Ben Roethlisberger on the COVID-19 list. Seems like he will probably be off of it. Doesn't seem like any Steelers players are too stressed or worried about it. But, Jordan, what's a play for this game that you like?
Oh, well, if Ben Roethlisberger's on the COVID list, he's probably just going to be out there with a breathing tube anyway, because that's just kind of how he likes to handle things. Another injury monitor is Joe Mixon. He was practicing on the sidelines today, but I think it was like in a rehab capacity because he has that foot injury still. So if he's not good to go, I'm not sure if I'm firing up anybody on the Bengals side, with the exception of maybe Tyler Boyd. But this Steelers defense is very stingy, and I think they're going to be in Joe Burrow's face all day. On the opposite side, this is a good chance for you to get a good tight end play out of Eric Ebron. The Bengals, I believe, are allowing the most yards to tight ends coming into the week, so this might be a good play for him. Other than, if you're going with Juju, Claypool, or Deontay Johnson, those guys are also good options, but Eric Ebron might get especially free this week. So
it should be another odd down game for the Steelers playing an inferior opponent. Let's see what Mike Tomlin can
Clark
do
is
this
all
week.
over this. I love it.
Watch it be like snowing or something, and they just can't get anything going.
That would be really upsetting. I do think that you can basically fire up all three Steelers wide receivers, and I would put them in the order of Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and Juju Smith-Schuster in terms of production. But yes, I do like all of them. And I love the Eric Ebron call. Moving on! Buffalo Bills head to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Nick, what do you got in this game?
Well, I think we saw last week with John Brown finally healthy, that offense just gets to soar higher than it would otherwise.
Soar like a cardinal.
Yeah. So the Cards, I mean, they're probably like around number 12 in points allowed to opposing wideouts. But I think that this game, it just has a lot of pieces that we can kind of diversify our portfolios with and get pieces of. This is although the Bills secondary is in name very strong, I think that this will be a fun game of two opposing offenses interacting with each other to the benefit of everybody involved. So anyway, I just, John Brown, he was hurt for a long time, wasn't doing a lot for the people. He had like 2 games where he didn't do anything because he was basically just operating as a decoy. If he's still available, he's someone who I think we should all be looking at.
Yes. And I think I just dropped Cole Beasley in one of my leagues, and I think that is maybe a bit harsh for me, but I was really hurt by his recent performance. But he is someone who I think you should be sitting on your bench this week, because the return of John Brown has certainly rearranged the target share, and Cole Beasley is no longer the number 2 behind Stephon Diggs. So we have no fears of DeAndre Hopkins going up against Tre'Davious White after he kind of gave us a dud of a game against Miami.
I do not fear DeAndre Hopkins facing
so.
any opponent. Sometimes receivers will not get targets, but this is kind of like Julio Jones. Is the corner being good may cap their upside, but is anyone surprised if DeAndre Hopkins gets 97 yards and 2 scores ever?
I mean, I don't know, Clark. He was really bad last week, and if I know anything, we can only go off of the week that just happened, and we can't.
It's like they say in the stock market, past results do indicate future gains.
Yes, and his past result was really bad, Clark. So I think you just made my own point. Thank you for that.
Trey White's a really good corner, but the rest of the Buffalo Bills defense just hasn't been playing very well this year. So
no, they haven't.
I'm sure they'll find a way to get him open.
Zach Moss is better than Devin Singletary. Drop Devin Singletary. He's worthless. It's my closing argument. Let's move on to the Denver Broncos heading to Oakland to take – not Oakland. I have Oakland written down, but God damn it, they're heading to Las Vegas. Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. And, man, Nick is so excited to watch Drew Lock and Derek Carr battle out for AFC West supremacy. And Nick even said this. He sent this to me in a text just now. He said, Pete, this is the battle for MVP of the NFL this year. And I said, that's a bold statement, Nick. That is a bold statement. So back it up.
I did say that. I texted it to you.
Yeah,
I didn't, you guys, but I'm still really excited about this game. So again, just talks about it. The way offenses interact with each other can oftentimes be way more important than anything else. However, this one does feature 2 crappy defenses. Both of these teams are a top 8 in quarterback fantasy points allowed. We called it last week that Locke was going to be a really great start. It's unfortunate that both of his tight ends got injured last week, but I think Fant is expected to still be available. Anyway, it's just going to be an awesome shootout with two guys who, at least right now for Carr, are kind of playing like they don't care what happens on the other side of the ball. So I know this is crazy. I've got both of these dudes as like top 8 options in the rankings this week.
Yes.
They might not be there ever again, but for now, offenses with really good playmakers against two crappy defenses, this will make for some fireworks. Also, Josh Jacobs has still never scored a touchdown in a Raiders loss.
Has to be said every week, and I love it. Also, Jerry Jeudy is a wide receiver too until he proves otherwise.
He's so good.
He's so good. You should be firing him up in every single league. He should never sit on your bench for the rest of the year. So the jewelry company has spoken. Let's progress. The Seattle Seahawks head to LA to take on the Rams. And personally, I am staying away from this Rams backfield at all costs. Who knows who's leading it? The Seahawks have allowed the third fewest rushing yards. And right before the bye, we saw Sean McVay get creative. Robert Woods had a rushing touchdown inside the 5-yard line, which is not what you want to see when you already have to kind of like figure out which of these running backs to start. You don't want to see a running back getting or a wide receiver getting running back touches in the red zone. So for me personally, I am staying away from Darrell Henderson. I am staying away from Malcolm Brown, and I am staying away from Cam Akers if he ever sees the field. But I am firing up Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, obviously, because the Seahawks secondary is trash.
So we've got a couple of good quarterbacks on bye this week. Jared Goff was available in a couple of my shorter leagues, so I went and picked him up. I do think that they're going to be able to pass. Henderson is the running back to own in LA, and this is just a fun fantasy theme to look out for when you're thinking about drafting next year. I've had Cam Akers all year, and those are just the picks that kill you, the guys you feel like you can't drop, and they are giving you absolutely nothing.
They sink your team faster than a sinking ship, which actually takes quite a bit of time because it's got to take on a lot of water before it eventually goes down.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Seattle opponents handle their defense from now on. After Buffalo, they attempted like 5 rushes before halftime last week.
Love it.
Yeah. So on that note, I just wanted to shout out a great Twitter follow that I came across earlier in the season, Sam Hoppin. He and Hayden Winks were having an interaction this morning where Hoppin brought up the fact that Josh Reynolds is the preferred deep target of Jared Goff, 13.5 yard average depth of target. And he's seen Van Jefferson is 0.1 yards behind him, but he's seen a third of the targets that Reynolds has. So Josh Reynolds is like the guy, the deep threat in Los Angeles. Per Hayden Winks, Seattle is allowing the second most deep receptions allowed, meaning over 15 air yards, that is 4.6. So expect some deep shots to Josh Reynolds this week. If you guys need any streaming options, he's a great one who should definitely be available. Henderson, yeah, I've got him like right on that RB2 / flex play fringe because he is the starter there. But Seattle, I mean, one that they've been the one good thing on defense they're doing is stuff in the run. He's super risky is all I'll say. He's very risky, but he is the lead guy there.
Yeah, Seattle's one of those weird teams that's 9th in rush defense DVOA, but 29th in pass DVOA. So if Jared Goff has time, we've seen that if Jared Goff gets pressure in his face, and Seattle might have to manufacture some pressure to get in his face, then that's not good for the Rams. But if he has a clean pocket, then he's going to be taking those deep shots. And Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Josh Reynolds, the backfield though, I don't know what to do about the backfield. Cam Akers, I thought was going to be something. Like he had some flashes earlier, but like Sean McVay is just determined not to give the ball to one running back too many times.
Let's continue down our NFL adventure as we hit the San Francisco 49ers, heading to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Clark, what do you like in this game?
Michael Thomas came back and looked pretty good. I think we can trust him again. Drew Brees is showing life going into the end of the season. Kamara takes a bit of hit with Thomas coming back, but I think this is a pretty easy game to call. You're starting your stars, and that's about it.
Are we at all worried the Saints defense just like completely put the kibosh down on the Buccaneers last week? Are we worried that this secondary that you could pick on, that teams have picked on, is maybe coming to fruition and becoming healthy and playing a little bit better as Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk are getting healthy and taking the field? Is there any qualms with, like, in normal, I'd be like, fire those guys up. They're going to be top options against a secondary that you can pick upon. But given what we saw against Thomas Brady, is Nick Mullins really going to be able to do more against them? Or was that a flash in the pan? A pan in the flash?
So I'm more worried about what I saw Chris Mullins do against the Packers than I am about what the Saints did to the Buccaneers. The 49ers just look completely inept against a team who has a really good offense and struggles on defense. So that makes me very, very worried. And so I just kind of glossed over San Francisco there because
It's fair.
I trust Kyle Shanahan to get the ball in his best player's hands. Like Ayuk for a rookie has still been over 10 points a fantasy game when he's been playing. But I do think also at the same time last week, the Buccaneers kind of just got caught with their pants down. It didn't look good from the start, and it snowballed on them. And there were divisional games be like that sometimes. Saints beat them up pretty good the first matchup too. So I think the Saints might just have the number.
I think.
Well, I was just saying, it rarely looks good to get caught with your pants down. Rarely a pleasant view.
I think that the near goose egg, or was it a full goose egg that Mike Evans posted this week, has kind of shaded the conversation. He and Lattimore, his last 3 games, he's like 0 catches, 2 targets, kind of a thing. Anyway, Deebo, I think in his last healthy game, actually ended up having negative air yards, which that sucks. Yeah, and he caught like 6 passes. But it shows you what Kyle Shanahan is going to do if they get Deebo back. I think that he'll succeed in the box score, but obviously I expect the Saints to kind of roll this game.
Yeah, this game probably will go out of hand real fast. A game that's also going to go out of hand real fast because I sat through a Monday Night Football game, which was an actual game because this fucking Patriots defense is a hot pile of garbage, and Joe Flacco looked like he was fucking leading the Ravens to a goddamn Super Bowl back in whatever that year was against, there's just an ugly game, not fun to watch. But now we get the Baltimore Ravens going to New England. And let me tell you, man, if you want anything to fix this Ravens offense, well, let me show you the Patriots run defense. This game is going to be a Lamar Jackson, a Gus Edwards, a J.K. Dobbins special. So you should fire all those guys up with the utmost confidence. However, you should bench Mark Andrews. New England allowing the fewest points to tight ends, and Baltimore's going to run the ball for 1 billion times and 1 billion yards, and they're not going to throw it anyway. So there's no reason to even start any of the pass catchers here.
Yeah, Marquise Brown is still a sit for me, and Jacoby Myers should be getting that 3rd wide receiver spot / flex start for you on a good team.
Agreed on Jacoby Myers. If you have to bench Mark Andrews, I hope you have some other awesome streaming tight end option because there aren't a whole lot out there. Maybe you did pick up Eric Ebron and he's been sitting on your bench. You want to fire him out there this week. But yeah, the Ravens, they look like they figured something out last week against the Colts. It wasn't going very well, and it kind of seemed like they got something back on track. So if they're going to keep on hitting this running game, doing it against the Patriots is going to be great for their confidence going forward.
Jacoby Myers is wide receiver 3 because he sees 100 targets and is the only person catching passes. So I like that call. Clark, your Cam Akers is my Marquise Brown. I can't quit him. And it is soul crushing. 2 games left. We have the Los Angeles Chargers heading to Miami to take on the Dolphins. Jordan, what do you like in this game?
I like Tua. I think he's shown himself
good
to kind of be the real deal. What kind of sucks, though, is that he lost Preston Williams, who looked like his top target coming into it. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see Jakeem Grant running around out there like on some crossers, and getting the ball in his hands is just generally a good idea because he's really fantastic with it once he does. On the other side, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. I'm not like that high on Hunter Henry. Not anymore, at least. It just seems like he's not living up to those expectations. But the Dolphins defense is also tough, so it might be a struggle for him to get going. The Chargers backfield, Kalen Ballage got a lot of carries last week, which was really freaking goofy.
And then got sent down to their practice squad. He's on their practice squad now.
He played for Adam Gase, right? So
Adam Gase batting 100 here with players going away and suddenly becoming good offensive weapons.
He played for Adam Gase twice. He played for Miami, and he's like, no, I need to play with him again. I'm playing with him in New York.
Let me double down on the Adam Gase experience because that's something everyone needs more in their life.
What do you guys so Ballage getting demoted and Troy Pope back? How does the backfield? I got to update the running back rankings. Yeah, does anybody have any? Because so Jackson's hurt. It's going to be Josh Kelly and Troy Pope. Is that it?
Justin Herbert's about to throw this ball 60 times, baby. I'm here for it.
And that's tough because the Dolphins secondary
is good.
They're really, really good. That said, I will have to go to bat here for Hunter Henry. He's the 7th most targeted tight end in the league. His average targeted air yards is 0.1 behind Keenan Allen. I think that this is a dude who's just he's been on the wrong side of variance, but the usage is there. So I would be trying to acquire Hunter Henry. I'm actually trying to offload Mark Andrews in a package with him here and there because I got more than one share of Mark Andrews. To go grab Hunter Henry. So putting my money where my mouth is there. On the other side, Devontae Parker just gonna gobble up the targets. Clark, you want to take that away?
Yeah.
No, I was really excited about Preston Williams also. So it does clarify the passing game for us. But yeah, too bad for Williams. I like to see both those guys out there.
Yeah.
Probably not fantasy relevant, but I think with Troy Pope being the RB2, we might see their rookie Joe Reed get some carries. He had 3 carries. Oh no, I'm reading his return stats. 2 carries last week. He's a receiver, kick returner, gadget type of guy. Not worth a fantasy play, but somebody to maybe keep an eye on because they really like him.
Awesome.
He's a beast. He was very underrated.
Clearly, since this is the first I've ever heard his name. All right, we have Monday Night Football. The last game we're going to talk about, Minnesota Vikings heading to Chicago to take on the Bears. If you are all expecting an Adam Thielen bounce back game, it ain't coming. He's the wide receiver 20 for me. My expectations are low. So if you can get out from under him, you should. This offense is how Mike Zimmer wants it to run right now, which is Dalvin Cook being the engine that could and carries the ball 25 times, and Kirk Cousins throws the ball 20 times. And even though Adam Thielen is seeing 25 to 30% of those 20 targets or 20 passes, you can only do so much when you get targeted 5 to 6 times a game. And this Bears secondary is legit. This defense is legit. I don't think that this is a get-right game for Adam Thielen. I think that comes maybe next week against the Cowboys. But even still, man, Nick is trying to get out from Mark Andrews. I would think about trying to get out from Adam Thielen if I had him. I have him on one league, and I have been slipping out trade offers to try to have someone buy on maybe the possible potential. But I might wait till after Dallas and he has a big game and then sell him.
I will not be getting rid of Adam Thielen because he's amazing, and I think that he will
good,
buck this trend.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think this is tough though.
Yeah.
Even with this slump, he's still wide receiver 15. And I said on the show earlier this week that we've seen Adam Thielen just kind of go off and put up 10 points in a drive. And that's just how the offense sometimes just operates. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold it against you for holding out Thielen in this one. Chicago's really good against the pass, and the resurging Vikings running game is just a good mix to hold him out one more game if you can. Like, I'd rather, we said Curtis Samuel versus Adam Thielen last week, and how I'd probably never choose Samuel. I would choose Samuel this week over Adam Thielen, but that'd probably be it. Nick Foles is not a horrible option at quarterback if you are just destitute and, again, forgot to do your waivers and you need a quarterback right now who's definitely available. Nick Foles against Minnesota could be okay.
100% available. You should also be firing up this week is Jordan Smith's cornhole partner extraordinaire, tight end 1, Jimmy fucking Graham.
Honestly, I'm pretty salty about it. That he's a viable fantasy option, and it's like, why?
So the last word I'll have here on Thielen is just that, like you said, Pete, next week he's got Dallas and then Carolina and then Jacksonville. So if you are in playoff contention, he's going to help get you there. But moving to the Chicago side of things, so Minnesota, their secondary is allowing the second most points per game to the wide receiver position in half-point PPR. They trail only the Seahawks, who lead everybody else by a margin of 10 points. But anyway, the Vikings, they are getting just destroyed by receivers, allowing the most touchdowns at the position, averaging 2 per game as well. Darnell Mooney, I talked about him weeks and weeks ago, finally has kind of come alive. Last week he scored a touch, or 2 weeks ago he had a touchdown. Last week he had 11 targets. He's the downfield receiving weapon in the Bears offense. Like you just said, Clark, add Nick Foles if you were in need of streaming someone. He will undoubtedly miss Mooney, and Mooney will not have the ceiling game that he should have. But I think he can still have a big-ass game. Allen Robinson is going to be in contention for overall wide receiver 1 honors this week, and Anthony Miller deserves flex consideration. As for that backfield, Ryan Nall, I don't know. I don't know what to –
More like Ryan Nah, am I right? Nailed it. God, it was so good. Yeah, I'm not touching Chicago's backfield. All right, well, there you go. Week 10 starts and sits, and it seems like the Oracle pulled a Nick and decided to just bail on us for an extended period of time with no forewarning. So no Oracle prediction this week, it seems. I will get on her. Don't worry. She will have a stern but loving text message waiting in her inbox after this podcast goes out. Make sure you subscribe to the Fake Teams podcast wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. That's how you'll not only get us, but also our fantasy baseball and fantasy basketball. If you like basketball, it's coming back in a month. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at RB1 Podcast. You can follow myself at Pete M. Rogers. Follow Clark at NFL Clark, Jordan at Jordan_Smith27, and Nick at Ginger__ Nick without a K. We will be back at you next week. Best of luck to everyone on their Week 10 plays. Until then, peace.